Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ernie Alima, and in today's video we'll be covering topic 7 of AQA A-Level French, which is a culture proud of its heritage, or une culture fière de son patrimoine. This video is designed to assist your revision and is not a substitute for lessons and official textbooks. Before we get into the video, please like and subscribe for more content, and also check the description of this video for plenty of resources. I also encourage you to do your own research once watching this video, because the topic of heritage or patrimoine is very rich. There's a lot of there's so much you can talk about because it's linked to any French-speaking country or countries, not just France. And of course, each individual country would have its own unique culture and heritage. So definitely, if you're interested, do more research, find more examples, as this is all stuff you can talk about in your speaking exam. You can also link it potentially to your IRP. So if you want to find more about the IRP, please watch my video. I'll put a link in the description too. We're now going to do an introduction and a warm up. So the three subtopics underneath the larger topic are le patrimoine sur le plan national, régional et local, comment le patrimoine reflète la culture, and le patrimoine et le tourisme. So those are the three subtopics. The warm-up activity, there are two. So the first one's to define any key terms. So le patrimoine, national, régional, local. What could those be? What could patrimoine at those different levels be? Then also try and answer the question of comment le patrimoine reflète la culture. Finally, think about the link between le patrimoine et le tourisme. So in this case, we can just take le patrimoine to be heritage, but we'll go into more detail later. Then the next question is combien de sites du patrimoine mondial de l'UNESCO y a-t-il en France? And the bonus question is peux-tu en nommer quelques-uns? So how many UNESCO World Heritage Sites are there in France? And the next question is, can you name any? This picture will give you a hint. So please give the video a pause and try and answer these, and we'll get the answer straight away. So the answer to this one, combien de sites, how many sites are there? The answer is 49 at the time of this video. And can you name any? An example would be this picture we have in the bottom right corner, and this is a famous island in France called Mont Saint-Michel. If you have any others, please think about them, talk about them, put them in the comments of this video, just to have some ideas. On the next two slides, I'm going to put up some vocabulary. This is some useful words to know, and I've also got the gender of the words there too, so please take a note. Then we'll also do the same for the next slide. So please give the video a pause and take note of this vocab. And then here we have 20 more words for each of this, 10 more for each subtopic. The first subtopic is le patrimoine sur le plan national, régional et local. We're going to start off with an introduction to le patrimoine. So le patrimoine refers to the heritage passed down from previous generations, including both tangible and intangible elements. On the tangible side of things, we've got buildings, monuments, natural landscapes and works of art, and on the intangible side of things, we've got traditions, customs, languages, and local festivals. It's important to make the distinction between the two. It's not just the things that you can see, it's also the things you can't see. Now, if we look at the national heritage side of things, so le plan national, national heritage plays a key role in defining the collective identity of any country, including France. In France, we have some key examples, such as monuments including the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre Museum, Notre Dame de Paris, and the Château de Versailles. We've got natural heritage in France, so Mont Blanc, the French Alps, and the Loire Valley. And then finally, we've also got cultural heritage in France, so the French language and literature. These are all central to the national identity. When you're looking at patrimoine on a national scale, we also have something called UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and this is the specific listing. And it's important because UNESCO, which is part of UN, and UNESCO stands for the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. So it basically deals with the question of looking after and preserving heritage in different countries. So it helps to preserve, having a UNESCO recognition It does help to preserve these sites on a global scale and helps to emphasize their cultural significance. Moving on to le patrimoine at a regional level. In France, France has many diverse regions, each with unique traditions, customs, and cultural landmarks. We can give some brief examples, but I'll go into more detail later. So we've got Alsace, which is famous for its picturesque villages and unique architectural style, influenced by both French and German cultures. Brittany, which we'll look at later, which is known for its Celtic traditions, including music, dance, and festivals. Provence, which is renowned for its lavender fields, Roman ruins, and Mediterranean influence. Finally, the island of Corsica, with its distinct culture, language, and traditions that differ from mainland France. These elements contribute to regional pride, with many local communities working to preserve their heritage and customs. Finally, we can consider patrimoine to be at a local level too. So, small towns and villages may preserve their local heritage sites that may not be as globally recognized, but they're still of great cultural significance. Some brief examples could be local festivals such as La Fête des Lumières in Lyon, or the Carnival de Nice, which reflects local traditions. And then we've also got local crafts. So this includes regional crafts such as pottery making, lace making in Alençon, or the production of traditional wines in Bordeaux. This is another example of local heritage. Local associations and initiatives are often responsible for preserving these traditions and encouraging younger generations to keep them alive. We're going to briefly cover the role of the state in looking after um, heritage. So there's government protection in France. The state plays a significant role to protect both national and regional heritage, with organisations like Les Monuments Historiques and Le Ministère de la Culture. There's also funding for preservation, financial support for preserving historic sites, monuments, and intangible cultural elements. There can also be laws to prevent the destruction of important heritage sites. Now look at the importance of heritage. Le patrimoine connects the past with the present and ensures that cultural practices, stories, and landmarks are not lost. Le patrimoine plays a role in tourism and the economy. We'll be having a look at this in more detail later. And le patrimoine arguably helps with social cohesion because it helps people understand their roots and share a common sense of identity across different generations. Despite this, there are some challenges to heritage preservation. One of them could be modernization. So, as cities grow, there can be a tension between development and heritage preservation. Over-tourism is another challenge. Popular heritage sites can suffer from overcrowding, leading to degradation. So, places like Mont Saint Michel can often be very overcrowded. And also, climate change is another challenge. Natural sites are increasingly at risk from climate change, such as the erosion of coastal areas or damage to historical buildings from extreme weather events. Now on this slide, we're going to look at the next subtopic of comment le patrimoine reflète la culture. So the first thing that we're going to look at is heritage being a mirror of cultural identity. Heritage reflects the values, beliefs, and traditions of a society. It helps to understand the historical and cultural roots of a nation or community. Heritage can also link the past with the present, keeping customs and cultural practices alive. Traditions and cultural practices is the next part. So, intangible heritage such as festivals, music, dances, and customs reflect the traditional ways of life. Local customs, often preserved in festivals or events, reveal the importance of family, community, and religious beliefs in the culture. Architecture and historical monuments can also be testimonies. So, buildings, monuments, and historical sites are physical witnesses to a culture's history. Local architecture, for example, reveals geographic, social, and economic influences specific to each region or historical period. A key example of this would be the Alsace region, which had French and German influence. Historical monuments such as churches or castles testify to the religious beliefs and power structures of a particular time. The regional language and customs, so linguistic heritage Especially regional languages reflect cultural diversity within the country. Some regions in France and French-speaking countries preserve local dialects or languages that carry specific traditions. Preserving these languages and customs helps maintain a distinct cultural identity, and we'll cover this in a bit more detail later with some examples. Looking at culinary heritage too, gastronomy is an integral part of cultural heritage. This reflects the natural resources, agricultural practices, and historical influences of a region. Each traditional dish tells a story of cultural exchanges, migrations, and trade. The final subtopic that we have here is le patrimoine et le tourisme. So, looking at the link between heritage and tourism. Heritage is often a driver of tourism, so historical monuments and cultural sites and natural landscapes attract millions of visitors annually. UNESCO World Heritage status boosts international tourism, making heritage sites globally recognized symbols of cultural significance. Iconic landmarks like Mont Saint-Michel, the Château de Chambord, and the historic centre of Lyon are top tourist destinations in France. There are many more. Now we can have a look at the economic impact of heritage tourism. Tourism linked to heritage generates significant revenue for the national and regional economies. Local businesses such as hotels, restaurants, and craft shops benefit directly from heritage tourism. Creation of jobs in sectors such as guided tours, preservation projects, and cultural events happens too. There are some preservation efforts driven by tourism. Tourism can contribute to heritage conservation by providing funds for the restoration and maintenance of monuments and cultural sites. Public and private partnerships often fund larger scale preservation projects to protect sites for future generations. Educational tourism initiatives promote awareness of the importance of heritage preservation. There are some challenges, however. So, as mentioned before, over tourism, there can be an environmental impact, especially with increased visitor numbers, and sometimes commercialization. So, having excessive tourist development, this can sometimes detract from the authenticity of heritage sites. So, it's important to manage a balance. Tourism promotes a cultural exchange, so it promotes the ideas of sharing cultural practices between the local communities and tourists. This is because visitors often learn about local history, gastronomy, and traditions through guided tours and interactions with the residents. Festivals and cultural events also help to create these meaningful exchanges. Tourism can sometimes help to revitalize an area by attracting visitors to less populated areas. Um, Again, local crafts, traditional foods, and unique cultural experiences are often featured as part of campaigns to help these areas. Finally, looking at the role of UNESCO and the government in terms of tourism, UNESCO recognition promotes responsible tourism and ensures the preservation of sites of global cultural importance. We have something called the World Heritage Fund. This is managed by UNESCO and supports the preservation of World Heritage sites, especially in developing countries. It provides financial assistance for conservation projects, emergency interventions, training programs, and the preparation of site nominations. The fund is financed through mandatory contributions from UNESCO member states and voluntary donations too from governments and different organisations. The World Heritage Committee oversees the allocation of these funds based on priority needs. The French government also through the Ministère de la Culture, so that's the ministry, not the minister. So, the Ministère de la Culture supports heritage tourism by funding restoration projects and promoting heritage tours. And then some campaigns like Les Journées du Patrimoine encourage domestic tourism and appreciation of French heritage. In the description of this video, I'll put a link to some more resources linked to tourism and some stats too. On this slide, we're going to be covering the languages of France. So before I speak over this, please give the video a pause and try and read this out in French just to practice your pronunciation. I'll give the English translation, but while you do that, give the video a pause first and try and work out what this means and also speak out loud in French. So starting off with Breton, which is a Celtic language spoken in Brittany, which is in northwest France. It shares roots with Welsh and Cornish. but has faced significant decline despite revitalization efforts. We then have Occitan, which is a Romance language historically spoken in southern France. It includes dialects like Provençal and has strong ties to medieval troubadour culture. Then we have Basque, which is a unique non-Indo-European language spoken in the Basque region, which includes parts of southwestern France and northern Spain. We have finally Corsican, which is a Romance language closely related to Italian, spoken on the island of Corsica. So while it has been influenced by French, it retains distinct vocabulary and grammar. Finally, if we talk about languages in other parts of the world, other parts of the French-speaking world, many places in Africa have native languages as well as French as official languages. So, for example, Burkina Faso has about 23% of the population speaking French, but has about 66 indigenous languages. However, recently, in 2024, French was dropped as an official language. There were some political reasons for this, but it's also a recognition of local languages and local culture. On this slide, we can now see that two countries have dropped French as an official language, Burkina Faso and Mali. And again, it's mainly for political reasons, but it also highlights the fact that it's not just French which is spoken. There are other languages spoken in these countries, and they all have unique ties to the culture of the countries. I've put here a case study of a region of France, just to give some more context and something that you can speak about. Again, I would encourage you to do your own research, but this is just one example. So the region of France that I've chosen is La Bretagne, which is also Brittany. So starting off with the food, or la gastronomie, Brittany is renowned for its culinary specialties, particularly its crepes and galettes. So crepes are thin, sweet pancakes, typically served with toppings like sugar, jam, or chocolate. On the other hand, galettes are savory versions made with buckwheat flour and filled with ingredients like ham, cheese, and eggs. Both are often accompanied by a glass of local cider. We've also in Brittany got Le Fest Noz, which means the night festival in Breton. Breton is the local language. It's a traditional Breton celebration featuring music, dance, and community gatherings. It was recognized by UNESCO as part of the world's intangible cultural heritage. This event showcases traditional instruments like the bombard and biniou, which are essentially Breton bagpipes. People of all generations participate in circular or chain dances, preserving the region's cultural identity. Then on the screen on the bottom left corner, we have some road signs which include the local language, which is called Breton, or Breton. It's a Celtic language spoken by some inhabitants of Brittany, particularly in western areas. Although it was historically suppressed, there have been some efforts to revive and maintain the language through bilingual schools and cultural programs. French does remain the dominant language, but Breton plays a significant role in the region's heritage. I'm also going to link an article here. We can see that an island off northern France, off the coast of Brittany, has imposed a quota to tackle over tourism. So again, this will be a good example when talking about the role of tourism and its links to patrimoine, because um, this quota has essentially been put in place to preserve the local heritage and prevent overcrowding. On this slide, we have four examples of national heritage, national patrimoine. So give the video a pause and just give a quick read. I'll read it out too. So the French baguette was given UNESCO heritage status. Also, Belgian and French fairground culture was given intangible heritage. Congolese rumba, which is essentially a type of music native to Congo, the DRC. And then we have Ivory Coast staple food, which is atieke. It was given UNESCO cultural heritage status. On the next two slides, I have some exercises to practice tenses and also to practice translation. So please give the video a pause and I'll show the answers very soon. The first one, si la France n'avait pas protégé son patrimoine régional, de nombreux monuments historiques auraient disparu aujourd'hui. So check to see if your answer was something along the lines of this, but pay attention to the tenses. Did you get n'avait pas protégé and also aurait disparu? And notice how there's no agreement in this case. Then for the next one, the correct answer is here, les festivals régionaux français qui sont célébrés depuis des siècles continuent de rassembler les communautés malgré la modernisation. Take note here that we've used qui sont célébrés depuis. So we've used the present tense and depuis to translate which have been celebrated for centuries. If that's something you're not familiar with, please do research using depuis. I'll put a link in the description too to a video, but also do your own research and find a way of explaining it that works for you. I have two more sentences here. The one at the bottom is a bonus one. It's not linked to the topic, but you can try and translate it. It's got lots of different tenses and direct object pronouns, negatives, so definitely give it a go. And I've also highlighted the word may here because although I've given a possible translation, there are other ways of saying may. For more details, if you're interested, I'll put a link in the description. So the first one, the answer is here. And for the second one, the answer is here. So definitely pay attention to the last bonus one because there are definitely some things to take into account. Thank you for watching this video. Before you click off, definitely take a look at the stuff I put in the description. There are plenty of resources and links if you want to increase your knowledge of this topic. But again, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next video.